Hey guys, what's up? So this is False Bulls 123 coming to you day, I think it's 11, but don't quote me on that, of my quarantine vlog. I'm just trying to sort of mix up the backgrounds of where I'm vlogging, sort of experiment with just places to sit and vlog, because I love filming in my room. I love the aesthetic of it, but I imagine that gets a bit dull at the time, so I'm filming a lot this week, a lot at night, just because honestly I'm kind of forgetting to film like a little bitch. I'm sorry, that's just the way I am. You can hate me in the comments. But so I'm getting off of my health fitness track just because I don't really have any more stories about that at the moment I can think of. But I have been updating my blogger profile because apparently that's like the best way to for people to find you on Blogger, because Google is a search engine but can't put a search bar on their blogging platform, which is weird and also dumb. I'm not going to call them dumb on Twitter, but I'm going to call them dumb on YouTube, which is also owned by them, but they can go fuck themselves. So there you go. So this blog post, see, all about the writing. So this so I'm going completely brain dead. This video, there we go, is I'm gonna name my top 10 favorite movies of all time. And yeah, these might change. So let's hit up with my top 10 favorite movies of all times. Number 1, Clue. 1985, I believe. It starred Tim Curry. It's basically a comedic whodunit, which is based off of the Pocket Bros game. And it's so funny. It has this murder mystery that's like all Agatha Christie style. It's set in the 1940s. Well, not actually. I think it's set past that. It's set somewhere during the Cold War. Actually, my bad. And it just has all of these comedic bits. It has it's the type of movie you have to watch multiple times, and to actually really get all of it. And it actually came with 3 separate endings. So in cinemas, they would show a different ending depending on which time you would go in. But in the DVD series, they show you all of them, or you can choose to watch all 3 in a row, which is really cool. They actually reference that in a episode of Psych, in which Sean says, "And now I'm going to go home and sleep with my wife," which is the final line of the series. And then his friend says, "Sean, we're not married." But he doesn't understand that because he doesn't watch 1985 dark comedies and it's all Tim Curry in them. So, love that movie. If you haven't seen it, you owe it to yourself because you're a piece of shit who doesn't watch enough 80s dark comedies. Second one, second movie is Just Like Heaven. It was an early 2000s rom-com, and if there is 2 genres that I know, it is 80s dark comedies and 90s 2000s rom-coms. I don't know why, since I mostly write about horror, but those are my 2 favorite genres most of the time, besides horror. Just Like Heaven is about some dude with a face, don't remember his name, but I liked him in that movie, who moves into this new apartment. He's trying to get over his ex like a little bitch, and he just can't, because, feelings are hard. And he's a gardener. And so, he's living his best life, and then there's just some ghost chick walking into his apartment, being hot, floating through the table, and telling him to get the fuck out. And he's like, "I don't want to get the fuck out. You get the fuck out." And it's just like, I'm a ghost. I'm not getting the fuck out of anywhere. And so he's like, "Well, you're hot, so I guess we better figure out, where you're from or something." And she's like, "Fine." And it's actually just a really lovely, love story of them getting together, being funny, and eventually stealing a body. Like all good love stories. Lake House, fuck that. You need to do some grave robbing if you truly love them. And it's one of my favorite movies that's a rom-com. Next up, actual horror, and that's The Conjuring. I fucking love The Conjuring. Oh. Watch me be bad at holding cameras. Also, it was the ghost. You saw it. Anyway, so I watched The Conjuring, and I'm thinking, wow, this is really good. You had that historical component of it. It was part of, a huge series that I have still not seen. I know. Roast me in the comments for being a little bitch and lying to you. Fake movie watcher, fake horror junkie, don't know what, but I'm a fake anyway. And I just thought it was great. It had a really well-developed ghost story to it. It had a just great tension curve. Like, the way that the exorcism, like, managed... Oh, I mean, there was no exorcism in the movie. No, there was an exorcism. That's the whole point of the movie. Like, read the fucking premise before you watch a movie, okay? Spoilers. Anyway, and like just the exorcism in that was just so well done with like the different phases and just the way that they kept the tension going and just the dehumanization in the beginning, which really helped you disconnect from the person underneath. Well, near the end of the movie, you were allowed for that sympathy to be used to aid the horror. It was well constructed of a movie, and I appreciate that from a narrative perspective, as a movie watcher, and as like just a writer in general. It was just well made movie. It was great. Insidious, on the other hand, Insidious can suck a dick. Okay, I did not pay good money. I didn't pay any money, but I did not pay good money to watch an hour and a half of some man walk around a dark basement and have bad dreams. That was boring as shit. It wasn't even scary. Like, the Babadook, that was scary. It didn't make a lot of sense until somebody explained that it's an allegory. But it was scary. Insidious is not scary. Insidious sucks. And it sucks because the other movie, which we'll confuse it for, is really good. So, that was my rant. Number 4. Exorcism of Emily Rose. Let's see, if I remember correctly, it is a 2010s horror movie. And I'd actually put it more as a thriller documentary, actually. Basically, imagine if you watched The Exorcist, but if it was a court drama. Which sounds really weird, but it just had this really interesting confluence of theology and, I guess, skepticism, where they were discussing sort of our modern ideas of demonic possession, but through a skeptical scientific lens. As it was a court case, since they were trying to figure out if a priest had been negligent in this woman's death because he performed an exorcism. And so you get like, your classic pea soup all over the place stuff, but then you also get like this really interesting skeptical view of it. And what I think is really great is that the idea of religion was actually utilized quite a bit since it's about demonic possession, which obviously will have some Judeo-Christian overtones. But one thing I thought was really interesting was that the prosecutor, and I might be getting this wrong because I'm not a lawyer, the prosecutor, so the one that was like taking over for the priest side was atheist, while the person that was, I guess, like the other one, the one that was like saying, oh, he's guilty, he should go to jail, he was actually religious. I thought that was really interesting, and they actually tied it really into the plot. So I just really loved it. It actually had a lot of themes like the Black Tapes did, that sort of Mulder Scully belief skepticism angle, and I just really loved that. So Exorcism of Emily Rose is actually one of my favorite horror movies of all time, just because of the sort of themes and other stuff that they did with it. Let's see, 5th up, this is getting into my sort of like weird generational gap, where I only know movies from 1990s and 2000s to like 1950s and 60s, somehow skipping most of the 70s and 80s. So The Egg and I. Don't remember what year it came out, but it was, I actually know quite a bit about this because it's one of my favorite books as well. The Egg and I was written by Betty McDonald in the 1940s and was a fairly popular memoir of the time because she was talking about her life in like southern Washington as an egg farmer with her husband, something McDonald. Anyway, no, actually, my apologies. His name was Haskell. She later married a man named McDonald. So, she basically wrote about her life as an egg farmer for a long time in, like, this just, like, rural, like, Pacific Northwest location. And it became a really popular memoir series. Eventually, somebody made it into a movie called The Egg and I, which spawned this Monpart Kettle series, which used Monterey, Maine and Percy Kilbert in these sort of, like, screwball comedies about just this rural Oregonian family. And they were hilarious. They were my favorite, like, old-timey, like, comedies, just because I just loved everything about them. And when I read the book, I really loved it as well, because it had this just really great style and tone to it. And so, Betty McDonald actually became one of my favorite writers, and The Egg and I, like, began one of my favorite comedic movie series to this point. Next up is some more, like, Golden Age love, or Silver Age. I'm not that good at like movie history, and that's Charade. It starred Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn, and you're like, Audrey Hepburn, fuck yeah. So I just loved Audrey Hepburn in that. Like, there's something great about her acting. Like Marilyn Monroe, she had this very sex pot persona, which is really sad given like the fact that she was a really interesting and deep person. Like she had a lot of character and personality that a lot of people just didn't see because they're like, them tits. But like Audrey Hepburn, she was very beautiful. She had this like amazing radiance to her, but she also had this sort of graceful persona to her. She was the type of person that just radiated grace and charisma in a way that, like, a lot of other Hollywood actors, I didn't see it in the same way. I really liked Audrey Hepburn just because she could play this very cool socialite character very well, but she still had this sort of more personal side to her. And Cary Grant was great because, like, it's Cary Grant. Like, oh yeah. My favorite thing about the movie, though, is pretty much Audrey Hepburn has like 16 dresses for that movie. Like, she's constantly changing her clothing. Cary Grant has one outfit. You watch that movie, he only wears one outfit. He just takes off his coat in between scenes. And once you notice that, you're kind of just like, why can't he have like two shirts? Is he not allowed to change clothing? Are chicks only allowed to have nice clothing in movies? Like, that's sexist. Another great movie that I loved with Audrey Hepburn was, of course, My Fair Lady. I'm a big fan of the story. I know, like, all the songs from it. And I even did a monologue from Pygmalion by Bernard Shaw, which was the play that inspired My Fair Lady. The movie's actually very similar. The only thing that really is different is that in the movie My Fair Lady, they go to the Ascot races, and it's also, like, obviously not a musical in the original. But in the movie where they go to the Ascot races, in actuality in the book, they actually go to Professor Higgins' mother's house, which I think they, like, sort of figured out how to, like, tell that in the movie, but it was a very small change overall. So those two are, like, the two movies together, Charade and My Fair Lady, are kind of, like, my favorite. They're kind of like a tie right there. Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. Oh, shoot. I almost said Melissa McCarthy, but I know this. Marilyn Monroe, there we go. Gentlemen Prefer Blondes was fun. It was sexy, it was funny. There was just like all these ridiculous dance numbers that had no reason to be there, but it was a musical, so you didn't really care. And it was a fun movie. Like, it just had all of these great components to it that made you really enjoy it, because I felt like Marilyn Monroe, like, she was a fun character, but she was just like, excuse me, while, like, showed them that old razzle-dazzle, because she gave zero fucks. And at the same time, like, obviously we should, like, take a really deep look at how, like, women are portrayed in media and how, like, a lot of the ways that Marilyn Monroe was portrayed might not have been as consensual or more objectified than it really should have been. But I just love the movie because, like, it was fun and sexy, and you can't go wrong with that. So let's see. Singing in the Rain, Gene Kelly. Oh my gosh, I love musicals. I know, it's super campy. You're like, wow, that's like, yeah, but I do. Like, let's name some good ones. 1949, Chorus Line. That's fun. Not many people have seen it. That's a good one. Little Shop of Horrors. That should be on this list, but it isn't. But that's okay. Singing in the Rain, though, one of my favorites. It's got Gene Kelly, and of course you got that great scene where, like, he's in a raincoat, he's walking down the street, and he's like, singing in the rain. I realize you can't see me dancing. Singing in the rain, what a wonderful feeling, I'm happy again. But it's like, there we go. Now that I actually have decent lighting, hello there. But it's like, Singing in the Rain was just a great frickin', like, musical. It had this fun, like, everything about it was great. And it was about, like, a movie going from the silent film era to talkies, which were actual movies with audio, which was a completely new switch in Hollywood at that time. So that historical component actually made it really interesting. Let's see. So my last two are, weirdly enough, like, both 1990s films. So we had that Jump Again, right? While You Were Sleeping. Probably one of my favorite Sandra Bullock films of all times. And I love Sandra Bullock. Like, she's one of my favorite actresses. And I'm not saying like she's like the best actress in the world, but like she has a lot of great movies. And it's like, yeah, Premonition, Practical Magic, they were okay. But it's like there was a lot of other movies that she was just great in. I like to think that While You Were Sleeping is kind of like Sandra Bullock's version of Blue Moon. The story pretty much is another rom-com. I don't know if I mentioned that. Is basically she's a ticket attendant who, like, sees a super hot guy and she's like, want to get that. But she's like too shy. So she's like, oh, I'm not going to do that, like, because I'm like a shy girl. And then one day he passes out on the, like, train platform and gets rushed to the hospital. And she's like, well, I gotta check on a bitch. So she goes and she's like, hey, can I go check on that dude? And the receptionist is like, you may be a creepy stalker. Like, him? And he's just like, oh, yeah, we're dating. We're, like, fiancés. And she's like, well, okie dokie. So he, like, she pops in and she's like, oh, good, he's still hot. And then her family walks in and it's just like, what, you're getting married? And this bitch didn't tell us. And she's just like, oh, no, I got caught being a creepy stalker. But they're just like, Opa, we don't care. Like, this guy needed it. Like, this bitch needed a bitch anyway. And so she's like, oh, cool, I get to hang out with this awesome family. But then, like, while he's in a coma, she's like, wow, this is really awesome. Also, his brother's super hot. But then she's like, wait a second. I can't get jiggy with his brother, like, when I'm supposed to be his fiancé. But then, like, the guy wakes up and he's just like, I don't remember this bitch. Bitches is crazy. And then she's like, well, I guess I'll just, like, slam your brother. And he's like, okay. And the brother's like, oh, hell, okay. And then her and the brother get together. But it's basically just great because she thought she wanted, like, one guy. But then, like, she discovered that she had more in common with, like, another person. But that caused a lot of conflict. But without her, like, having, like, rom-com shenanigans, like, none of this would happen. I also like it just because, unlike a lot of rom-coms, this, like, second act conflict wasn't caused by, like, the dude. Because that's often the case, It's like, oh shit, Straight Talk, which should also be on this list, but isn't. Like in Straight Talk, she finds out he's a reporter. 27 Dresses, she finds out he's a reporter. My Fake Fiancé, which is amazing. I think he just, like, she thinks he has a gambling addiction. I don't even remember, like, what the conflict was in that, like, in the second act. Because, most rom-coms have, like, the sort of, they meet up, they're like, oh my goodness, we should bang, but, like, we're not going to bang because, like, blue balls. And then, like, the chick's like, oh my goodness, you're a piece of shit, I don't want to talk to you. And then the guy's like, wait a second, I'm not a piece of shit. And then the chick's like, well, I guess you're not a piece of shit. And this, like, really gave me perspective on the relationship and we should bang. And then they bang. And that's all rom-coms, basically. So, now that I gave you that little gist, let's get on to my final 10th favorite movie. Of course, I've mentioned about 15, and so the 16 others should be on this list, but this is my 10th favorite. And this one definitely deserves to be on the list. And that is Long Kiss Goodnight, which I actually just found out recently. Did not have Sandra Bullock in it. It was a completely different actress. I think it was Gina Davis. Long Kiss Goodnight is about a woman who's living her best Midwestern life. She's opening doors. She's going oop. She's into shoe fly pie. I don't think that's a Midwest thing. And then she's like, wait a second. I gotta pull a Jason Bourne 10 years before that movie even came out. What's with all of these murder memories? And then she finds out that she was secretly a CIA agent. And she's like, oh, woo? Well, like, now I gotta go kill people or something. And so, it's basically just her... Oh, I guess Total Recall would be a better reference. But it's also, like, the same sort of theme. Like, she's like, holy shit, like, all of this stuff is happening. And she's just like, I just want to go back to, like, my husband and my girl and my daughter who were kind of, like, traumatized a little at the beginning of the movie. And, like, I'm just trying to live my best life. And all of these, like, people are just, like, trying to shoot her and blow up bridges and stuff. And she's just like, no. I'm going to shoot you in the face. I'm going to get all bloody. And then I'm going to walk away explosions with my little 6-year-old daughter. Because I'm that badass. And honestly, just, like, the movie's great. The movie's awesome. It's like Jason Bourne, but, like, with a chick who has a family. And if that isn't a feminist retelling, then I don't know what is. So anyway, guys, that was like at least 10 of my favorite movies, regarding a wide range of ages, dates, and leading stars. And you can tell that 1, I do enjoy movies, and 2, I am a crazy rambling bitch. But anyway, guys, I had a lot of fun with this segment. I am having so much fun with this vlogging series, and you probably hate it. I don't know, why the fuck are you watching this? But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I love every single view that I get. I love every person that subscribes, because, like, you're great. And I'll say that I love you, because I am a whore. So this is False Bulls 123, signing off.